Set up Windows 10 again with the out-of-box experience, OOBE. Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. If at the end of this video you find it useful and there's a like button down somewhere below, hit it. It helps me, of course, but it also helps other people find the information they're looking for as they search. So it's not that uncommon for people to want to sort of reset up Windows 10 without necessarily going through the entire process of resetting up Windows 10. The program that runs when you set it up is referred to as the out-of-box experience. And as it turns out, you can run it again later. Before we start though, I want to talk about backing up. It is important that you take a backup of your system before we start this process. And I say that because while we sort of have a good idea of what this process does, it won't uninstall some software based on my experience, and it will reset a bunch of settings. I don't know if there isn't something in between that you really care about. With an image backup, you'll be able to go back to the state your machine was in before we did anything here. So please, start with a backup unless this machine of yours is, you don't care what happens to it. The out-of-box experience starts with a tool called sysprep. Let's switch over to Windows 10 Home. So what we're looking at here is my Windows 10 Home machine. It's a full installation of Windows 10. It happens to be fairly fresh since I've been playing with this particular example a bit. What we're going to do is run a program called sysprep. We'll right-click on the Start button, click on Run, and then what I'm running here is %windir %system32 sysprep.exe. You can locate it any way you like. You can use Windows File Explorer to go to it, whatever works for you. I'll make sure that this information is in the notes accompanying this video, as well as the original article that will accompany it as well. And we'll hit OK. So now what we have here is the system preparation tool. There is actually nothing we need to do here. What we are going to do is simply say OK, but you've chosen the OOBE that I've talked about, not the generalized option, and we're going to reboot, and that turns out to be important to get this process started. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and the machine now, after it does a little bit of processing, will reboot. This should all now start to look very familiar because this is pretty much the same scenario that runs when you set up Windows 10 the very first time. It is the out-of-box experience. Now, this is one of those settings that it didn't reset. I had multiple language packs installed on this machine, so I get to choose which one I'm going to run setup in. I will choose English. It's our friend Cortana.
Hi there. I'm Cortana.
As you can see, she's a little stuttery on this particular machine. Clicking that microphone down there at the bottom turned the audio off, although we do still have to sit through her little sales pitch about how helpful she's going to be. We are starting in the United States, of course. I have a US keyboard. I do not want to add a second layout. Naturally, we have to accept the terms of service here. Now, of course, one of the first things we need to do before we proceed in the setup process is set up one of our accounts. Microsoft strongly encourages you to use a Microsoft account, and that's what I'm going to show you here. I strongly encourage it as well. It does give you the most flexibility in terms of account recovery, account access, and more. And it really is the way I think most machines should now be set up. There are some obscure ways to set up a local machine account that I'm not going to cover here in this video, but it is an option if you are particularly concerned about, say, Microsoft's access to your activities and privacy. The account that I'm going to use is my Hotmail account, askleoexample@hotmail.com. And unfortunately, I'm not able to copy paste my password in a scenario like this, so I'll type it in painfully, character by character. Now, as it turns out, this account has two-factor authentication turned on. So what that means is that it's going to need two-factor authentication to confirm that I should be allowed to set up a machine with this account. I have to enter in the last 4 digits of that phone number to confirm to begin with that I know what the phone number is. And now it's going to send me a code. And there it is. So I will type in that code. And I will now have this account, my Hotmail account, be the login account for this machine. I'm a believer in PINs. I think that they are a secure and easy way of signing into your machine. So I am going to go ahead and use a PIN on this machine. Now we get to the privacy settings for this machine. The single most important thing you need to do when it comes to your privacy is not blindly hit accept. What I want to do is talk through some of these items for you a little bit and see which ones you might consider to be important and which ones aren't. For example, location. Do you want it to know where you are? It does add features and functionality to some of the applications that come with Windows. On the other hand, sometimes that location isn't necessary. Diagnostic data. So it's sending information about the websites you browse and how you use apps and features. This one, some people might find intrusive. It's sending information about where you browse and how you use apps. They claim it is done in a not personally identifiable way. If you agree with them, if you believe them, then it may be fine to leave this turned on. On the other hand, if this is of concern to you, then this would be one to potentially turn off. Required diagnostic data is, of course, required. That's part of Windows 10. Tailored experiences. So can they use the information that they've collected to offer tips and ads and recommendations? Well, again, that's kind of up to you. It depends, once again, on how much you trust them. It is not something that will affect your ability to use the system, so I suggest potentially turning that off. Find My Device. This is also a very highly leveraged item when it comes to portable devices. This allows Windows to tell you where you left your device. I recommend leaving this one on as long as you've got location turned on. Inking and typing. This allows them to improve their ability to recognize text when you type it in or when you are writing it in, if you've got that kind of an input device. This is another one where you may or may not want Microsoft to see what it is you've been typing or what it is you've been writing. I recommend leaving it on just because I tend to trust them, but if you don't, it's certainly safe to turn off. Advertising ID, ultimately that's just a unique number associated with this specific machine that is then shared with advertisers so that they can provide you with ads that are more relevant to what it is you do and look at. If this is something that bothers you, if this is something that concerns you, again, it's also very safe to turn off. Like I said, the most important thing is that you understand what you're agreeing to when you get to this screen. Now that we've set things to be a mix of yeses and nos, I'm going to go ahead and accept the settings. So now with the out-of-box experience, we've actually got a few more things that, I don't know, they kind of tailor the device to your needs. I also see them as much advertising from Microsoft's part as anything else. Customize your device. There's nothing here that you can't set up later. And that actually is a theme for much of what's going on here. Use your phone from your PC. Skip for now. You can set that up later. Back up your files with OneDrive. While I recommend you use OneDrive for this functionality, it is something you can set up in OneDrive later. So for now, only save files to this PC. Microsoft Office, if you have Office and you have a product key, by all means, feel free to enter it now. On the other hand, unless you want a free trial for a month, say no thanks. Office will still be there, but you'll be directed to the online free versions of the applications. And finally, nope, I'm not a fan of Cortana, so we're going to say not now. And that's pretty much it. The setup process is going to complete for us, and when it's done, it's going to return to a brand new clean desktop with the original start menu, a bunch of other settings reset, and we're just ready to go and use Windows 10. And there we are, back at our new Windows 10 desktop. I hope that was helpful. I hope running the out-of-box experience helps you solve some of the problems you may have experienced with Windows 10. As always, for the article on which this video was based, for related links, for updates and comments and more, visit askleo.com/131022. I'm Leo Notenboom. This is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.